And we're going to be talking a little bit today about the future of educational content. In order to do that, I want to first kind of put this in the context of education in the context of some larger global trends. I'll do that really quickly. To do that, I'll borrow some slides that Mary Meeker used yesterday in her presentation for Kleiner Perkins. Just some things to keep in mind. First of all, the proliferation of devices. We know there are more of them. You can take a look at this. The nice thing here is to look at this trend of how rapidly smartphone and tablet adoptions grow compared to other devices that have been put in the market. We see not only that we have more devices, but they're happening very quickly. And now we see in smartphones in particular and tablets a proliferation of flavors, et cetera, that are really growing the number of screens we're looking at and the types of devices. This is also a really interesting piece when you really talk about the mobile internet and how every time we introduce a new trend, it grows, and it grows tenfold. And so now we're in this idea of the mobile internet. We're looking at 106 plus billion units, or million units, and we're growing like this, and it just keeps growing. And we see that it's more complex. It includes tablets, smartphones, et cetera, but we see how this migration is happening. I like this one because it also shows the trend of how we're consuming content, and that really goes to play in education. When we talk about millennials in particular, we notice that they are doing more and more online, and they're doing more on demand, and that's really the big trend. And we look at consuming content today, it's about people consuming it when and where they are, and not according to a schedule. And then finally, we put this in the context of music consumption, and you look at this, and this really tells it all. That when we look at music consumption in 2013, and we look at streaming versus actual physical sales. And again, this goes to how content's being consumed and where it's going. And quite honestly, outside of the education context, any of us who think that this isn't the trend for everything, we're really holding on to a pretty fragile lifeboat. This is the way all content's being consumed: more screens, more devices, more subscription, more on demand, et cetera. It goes that way with reading content, and all of this is particularly apropos when it comes to education. Education is seeing tremendous change. We have lots of upheaval. At MBS Direct, we're the largest provider in the U.S. of virtual bookstores and e-commerce solutions for institutions. And as we look at that, and as we've done research over the last couple of years on how to provide the best e-commerce and distribution capabilities, we've worked with our partners at Innodata to figure out what's going on and how we can develop the best technology to do that, and the best technology solutions. One of the things we see, and I guess there are three things that I would leave with you, and if you can't remember anything else that I say, the most important thing is that there are three things we have to do. We have to be persistent, we have to be personalized, and we have to provide discoverability. And that may almost sound trite, it's true about everything we do, but those are the biggest problems in education today. We look at the student, how the student has changed. I can tell the audience that these students today are probably different than most of us were when we were students. Students today attend multiple institutions in the US, up to 4.2. They get courses from. They own multiple mobile devices, and that means multiple smartphones, not just a smartphone and a tablet. They own multiple devices, they watch many screens, they are on the go, they work, and they get their information from many places. Students have definitely changed. We're down to about 15% of the student population being traditional residential students, which means we have about 18 million higher education students in the US for whom going to school is just one of the many things pulling at their time. Their time is fragmented, their attention is fragmented, and when we talk about putting content together, we have to figure out better ways to do that. Institutions are also changing rapidly. This is a great slide. It talks about what institutions have to do to be relevant. Institutions are under a lot of pressure to compete. They're about driving costs down. Those costs can be anything from cost of learning materials to cost of tuition, but it is a competition. We see Southern New Hampshire rolling out a $10,000 degree. And in some places, brand matters, but increasingly in higher education, cost matters. And people look at that, and what am I getting? We all know about the gainful employment movement going on in the federal government and what they're rolling out, and these are having a big impact on the overall market. And we also see a lot of changes happening with faculty. When I was a faculty member, I taught, when I first started teaching as a faculty member, I taught the way I was taught. I was taught sitting in a classroom, a professor spoke to me, and I took notes and did whatever I was supposed to do. And when I first started teaching in the 80s, that's the way I taught. Today's professors or instructor, the professoriate, has a big problem. Almost all of them are being required to teach in ways that they did not receive instruction. Almost all of them today are being required to teach online courses, hybrid courses, etc. It's taking an inordinate amount of their time to try to figure out how to be relevant, how to use these technologies, plus they still have to teach. And in addition, we're down to about 30% of the professoriate in the United States is tenured now. So we're really keep moving down to where the vast majority of our instructors are not tenure track or tenured. They're instructors part-time and full-time. They have other jobs. They teach at multiple institutions. Time is a big deal. Efficiency becomes important. So again, as we look at these things, we also see the final big change we're seeing, and that's in learning content itself. Again, if we look back 10 years ago, even, or certainly 15 years ago, all the content came from 5 publishers for the most part. If you wanted to do discoverability, you sat in your office and a book rep came by and gave you the list in your catalog of what you were supposed to adopt and teach, and told you how to do it, and there was only one product. It was a print book. Today, there's a proliferation of everything. There's a proliferation of kinds of content, not just digital versus print. Within digital, I have digital textbooks. I've integrated learning solutions. I have adaptive assessment. I have all kinds of content, and it's a big problem. It creates more products. It creates versions of those products. We have to support every format for every device on anything that's digital. It's a huge problem for the consumer. And that's the biggest challenge that's facing education content today. It's not just creating content so that it'll work on every device, which we've done with Innodata really well. It's then trying to take all the content that's out there and making it discoverable, persistent, and personable and personalizable for the students and the instructors, and really making that relevant. I'm going to give you a quick example of how we are working to do that, and one of the ways we're doing that, and hopefully this will stimulate some ideas. As we look at the market, we've really seen a lot of trends, and I've talked about some of those, but as we really talk about doing those 3 things of driving persistence, making an experience that's personal, and making content discoverable, we started looking at what's the best way to do that. We have a worldwide exclusive partnership with Blackboard, the learning management system, to provide e-commerce and content distribution through their platform. And we've been working to develop that in a way that addresses all of these things. I'm going to start with the faculty, and this will give you an idea of how we're addressing these. The first is discoverability. It's very difficult today for instructors and institutions to know what content is available. In fact, none of them really do. Most people will try to use Google, and if you ever use Google for anything that really is a fine search, you realize Google is a blunt instrument, and you get the kind of results you get with a blunt instrument. You cannot find the book you're looking for, the ancillaries that go with that, all the different nuances. You have no idea how to get to that. An ISBN search will get you something, but it doesn't give you the relevant content you need. What we're building is a course materials hub that allows faculty to go in and search by ISBN. They can search by keyword. They can search by title, author, etc. Obviously, our partners have worked with us at Innodata on the metadata approach to this and how we can manage all of this and make our content relevant. And then we also provide transparency. So first of all, it's discoverability, making all of the content easy to find, everything that's relevant to a user or to an instructor in this case, and showing them all of the options, all of the pricing options, new, used, digital, everything that's possibly available there. And if you can't quite read it at the top, but then being able to sort all of that data. If you're looking only for open content, institutionally published content, if you're looking by price, etc., you can sort and have all that available. We also, for the student, have the store. And this is another piece. So faculty can find content, and then we have to provide all of this content to students. And so the store has to be a place that is different than other stores. So if you think about traditional e-commerce experience, we're all familiar with Amazon, we know how that works. And so how do we move beyond that, and how do we take advantage? Well, by using Blackboard, we can create, first of all, an extremely persistent experience. Students log into their learning management system every day. So traditionally, a student went to a campus bookstore once at the beginning of a semester, bought things, or got the ISBN and then went online and purchased it. Now, every time they log in, the store is with them. Every time they go to do anything in the system, they can access the store. The store is a persistent link. They can have their content, see it. When they go to buy content, that is an extremely personal experience. The store is unique to every individual student. When a student logs in, they see only their courses, the books that have been adopted for their classes, etc. They have all the options of formats, and we make that available to them. The third piece is around providing the aggregation, and this is where we spend a lot of our time. Today in the education world, students will buy many digital products and many print products, and they're on different platforms. They're spread in a disparate way across the ecosystem. What we've worked to do is to bring all of that into a common shelf. So our motto is really to have a global, one location for all transactions and one location for all access. So students should be able to buy all their content in one place, faculty should be able to discover all their content in one place, and everyone should access their content in one place. So as we've worked with Innodata, we've built our own digital ebook platform that has all the wonderful bells and whistles that we had wanted to. And we can take any kind of format, both from our institutional partners as well as our publisher partners, and create that content for them. But we also have publisher partners who have their own platforms. We also have institutions who have agreements with other ebook providers. And so what we're doing is providing a global source of access by integrating all of those platforms or access to them in one shelf, so that when students purchase content, they can purchase it from many different players, many different providers, and have many different platforms, but they always go to one place to get them. This is one of the most important things that we've been able to do, because it is solving a big problem out there. So kind of in summary, as we look at the trends, more devices, more content, more problems, more options, more user-generated content, and the problem that's out there, especially in higher education, people can't discover content. They have no persistent way to find it and to deal with it, and certainly it's a very impersonal experience today. We're using tools like the Blackboard Store to solve that, to bring in content. We think that aggregation is a really smart move in education. We're not going to have fewer platforms in education. Publishers are going to continue to develop their own platforms, but it creates a great deal of confusion around for our faculty and for our students. And so we're taking a different approach by bringing all that together.